Okay, I want to talk to you about the supposed migrant problem that we're having in Australia. We actually don't have a migrant problem in Australia. The only problem we have with migrants in Australia is that it is being mismanaged. We don't have people who are people managers. The migrant problem could become a migrant solution to us if we handled it in the correct way. Of course, everybody is upset. If you're a long-time dweller in this country and somebody comes along and takes all your job opportunities for you, ask any Indigenous Australian how upsetting that is. Right? But what we need to do is manage this human resource in a better way. What we have in Australia is a country that has about 25 million people. And we have a vast area of land, bigger than the continental United States, bigger than China, bigger than continental Asia, right, in a lot of ways. Right? But our land resource is not managed. The other thing we have is a negative population growth. The negative population means that we have all of the problems with our aging population. It is wonderful that Australians are starting to become one of the longest lived nations in the world, right? But we're not seeing how they can have a peaceful, happy future with this negative population growth. Last year in Australia, we only had 300,000 babies born, total, right? Which is not a lot compared to our 25 million people. Our population is going to go backwards, therefore our economy will go backwards, therefore there is less opportunities to produce value that will support our aging population. We do need people to produce value in this country. Right? Our value producers are what is going to make our country more prosperous. It is what is going to supply jobs for people. It is what is going to supply people who our government can tax to finance our wonderful way of living in this country. But if our government doesn't support value producing amongst our population and tries to turn us into a welfare nation, that's not going to happen. Yeah. What we need is to increase our population, because people, right, these people equal dollars. Right? People equal dollars. So if we want our population to get wealthy, then we have to increase and manage our greatest resource, which is not dug out of the ground, right? Which is not our invention, our intelligence. It is our people, right? Because if we have more people, we have more opportunities, right? Currently, our population is very heavily based around here. It's more sparsely based around here. What we have in the centre of Australia is vast areas. Yes, we have some large farms in there and large Indigenous tracts of land, but we have a problem where we want to establish a train line to Darwin from Melbourne, with no infrastructure in the middle, right? And a crazy situation where some of our wealthiest people and greatest value is produced over here in Perth, right? And yet the markets are here in Sydney and Melbourne. And we need to be able to have transport lines directly from these two places to Perth. Yet there is no infrastructure in the middle of our country to support this. We need population in here. So my suggestion is not original, but it is exactly what they did in the United States, right, with their immigrant population when they had the immigrants move into the United States and fill up the Midwest, is they did the Great Land Grab. They allowed people to come into the country and they were allowed to have 2 acres per person, right? So if you've got a family of 5, that's 10 acres, right? And they were allowed to stake their claim on that, and they had to produce value here. They had to work as a community and set up townships to support the rail line coming through, right? So So what we need here is, if we've got these people wanting to come to Australia with our negative population growth, we should be saying, great, give them land grants in here. Allow them into the country on the proviso that they are going to live here for 10 years or more in order to set up townships along the prospective rail lines that are going to link our country. Once they've done that for 10 years, they've earned their right to citizenship in Australia. That also keeps them out of the established cities and away from the welfare lines, right? And if they come to Australia, they come to Australia with the same attitude that the First Fleet came to Australia, that they're going to work this land and they're going to earn their right to be here. If we do this, we will be utilising the people who want to come to Australia, the migrants, in a way that will be productive for everybody in Australia. Everybody will benefit from this. Also, if they're in Western Australia, if they're in the middle, I mean by Western I don't mean Western Australia as the state, I mean but in the western or central part of Australia, what we're going to see is a chance to sort out the wheat from the chaff. So if there is anybody coming to Australia for the wrong reasons, when they're out west, they will get sorted out. Australia has a way of doing that. I actually sent my own eldest son out jackarooing for a while, and he came back a gentleman. Right? It eliminates the possibility of people becoming migrant terrorists, because if they're going to be isolated away from the major population areas, there's not much chaos and destruction that they can cause if they're asked to stay there for 10 years if they want to move to Australia. The people with families should be happy to receive a parcel of 2 acres of land. It is in arid areas, but it's not barren. The middle of Australia is a very productive area, and it would be cheaper to provide the infrastructure to support this, as in raw water, as in hospitals, as in schools, rather than just providing endless handouts for a migrant population that just wants to come to Australia to have an easier economic life. Getting them away from our economic centres, right, and getting them to see the opportunities that are available for them, and setting up their own farms, their own communities, their own shops, their own centres within the centre of Australia, will solve the problem for everybody, including the migrants. If we did that, we could take so many more. We'd be following the spirit of Australia as it was originally, supporting our ageing population, and utilising this incredibly valuable resource in a way that would certainly serve the whole of Australia. And nobody could argue with somebody who has come to Australia to do that, because if you come to Australia with that sort of an attitude, you've come with a very Australian attitude. Good on everybody. I certainly hope that we can start implementing something like that, and that will bring forth many blessings for everybody.